Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back if you're new. My name is Becky. This is Life with Becky. In today's video, I'm going to be chatting to you about my daughter's palate repair. So for reference, my daughter has a rare chromosome deletion. We found that out during pregnancy, and from this, she got PRS, she had PRS. And so PRS, for those that don't know, is Pierre-Robin sequence or syndrome, however you want to pronounce it or look at it. So she had the small jaw and she had a cleft palate in her case, and so she had her jaw distraction when she was 4 months old, and we were finally able to bring her home after that. So we weren't able to bring her home until she was 4 months old. She was born at 34 weeks as well. I do have more in-depth detail on my pregnancy and my birth and all that kind of stuff, so I will link those videos down below if you're interested in watching. But yeah, so my daughter is now 16 months or close to a year and a half, and she had her palate repair on the 14th of June. It is the 8th of August when I'm filming this. So my daughter had her palate repair. It probably took, I would say, 3.5 hours. Surgeon said everything went beautifully. We had two teams. We had the gastro team because she also had a peg insertion. She had an NG tube up until like 14 months, and then we switched to a peg because she just wasn't able to have full bottles and things like that. So for us, it was just an easy decision to make. Keep that in mind as well when I go through my journey. Every child's journey is different, but this is how it went for us. So surgery went beautifully, and for her palate repair, her surgeon said prior that he may need to take a little bit of skin out of her cheek if her gap is too wide and it needs extra skin to close, but for her he didn't need to. So then once we were out, she was in the, I think it's called the HCU or the HDD, something like that. She was in there for one night, and then we were moved down to the ward. At this point, we had to stay up in Perth for the first 10 days post-op because we live about an hour away from where surgery was, and we were still too close to be able to get help from the government in terms of accommodation, even though our daughter was having surgery and all that kind of stuff. So we had to pay to stay close by, and it was all up like $2,000 for the 10 days roughly, or close to. So we're still catching up with that. So she was in the ward / she was all up in hospital for about 5 days. So we discharged. We tried to do a little bit of the burn spoon in hospital, but she just wasn't into it. So then it was kind of lucky in a way that we had the peg to make sure that she was still getting some nutrition. We were discharged and we brought her back to the motel, and then from like when we brought her home or to the motel, she was having some discharge from her peg, and that is normal for what we were told. It's just clear discharge. But then over time and overnight it got worse and more dark, and she just seemed like in much more discomfort. At 3 a.m. the next morning, my partner took her back into emergency, and it was kind of lucky because we were discharged on a Sunday and the next morning was obviously Monday, so it was kind of lucky because we had to then, because it was a gastro thing, we had to wait for the gastro team, and then we were seen, and basically the lady that we saw was lovely. I'm obviously not a specialist in this, so don't like take this with a grain of salt, but this is essentially what happened. So basically, because her peg was so new and the site was so new, there hadn't been enough time for the site to close up, so there was still a gap right where the tube goes into. There was still a gap. There was so much movement, and because there was that gap, the stomach acid had the opportunity to come out and create more irritation on her skin and all that kind of stuff. So the gastro person fixed it all up as best she could. She was put on antibiotics just to make sure it didn't turn into an infection. Thankfully it didn't. The antibiotics did its thing, and we were told to put some green tube cream on for a while to help with irritating from the outside of her skin. And then once that started to settle, then she started getting a granulation, which is normal. I didn't know what it was at first, but it's normal. And then, so we were given the little yellow Gavilon, I think that's what it's called. We were given that, and we still use it. And this was like 3-4 weeks ago now, so we still use that because it's really, really helpful, just because it has sort of gone up and down. Apart from the little like hump of it, it's still been generally pretty easy. Definitely a slight adjustment to begin with from having an NG, but so much more better. Oh my god, we hated the NG up until the end. We loathed it. Like, all three of us absolutely hated it. She struggled with it a lot. So yeah, so then moving on to her palate. So palate, like I said, went perfectly fine. First few days, and then bringing her back to the motel was trying to do a little bit of puree, and then come to week 4, so every surgeon's different, just preference, but her surgeon, the way that he works was she couldn't have anything in her mouth for 4 weeks. So she had the no-nose on, which is just strapped, you know, Velcro. We bought our own in. I ended up buying a second pair because her vomiting and things like that, it just got dirty and really, really gross. So I bought a second pair so that I could wash the first pair, but that's a tip. Buy a second pair. So once we eventually were able to bring her back home, once we hit the 4-week mark, I tried bottles. She did not want to borrow it. She screamed, pulled away, and it took her a little bit, but I kept persisting, not forcing, but I kept persisting. And you know, I'll admit there were a few times where I got really, really frustrated with the situation, but I had to remember that she's had a lot of trauma to her mouth, and it's just going to take time, and it's still taking time even now that she's got the hang of it. Like the first 3.5 weeks, it was rough. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it was fucking rough. You know, like sleep, what the fuck was sleep? It didn't exist really. But slowly as we've gotten home and settled back in and gotten back into a more of a regular routine, her sleep's gotten better. So before her palate repair, she had pretty much no teeth. I think there might have been one just starting to pop through. Actually no, I think she had 2 just starting to pop through, but they were both at the back. Now she has all up 10 teeth. 3 at the top, 2 at the bottom, the rest are at the back. So the fact that she's gotten that much teeth in like a month and a half is crazy. The other thing too is before she had a palate repair and surgery and stuff, she was army crawling. She got the no-nose on, and her peg, I feel like for her peg she didn't want to lie on it anymore because it was sore, and then the no-nose, it kind of forced her arms straight. So she ended up just clicked. She just started crawling. Now she sits up unassisted. This is huge. This may not seem big to most parents, but for me as a mum with a medical needs child and a very, very delayed child, this is massive. It's just her confidence, I feel. And the other thing too is her vocabulary. She's added 3 new words, I believe. So gaga, dada, or her dada is d, which is really cute, and baba every now and again. Yeah, and then her other 2 words she was saying prior was mama and nana. So she has 5 words now in her vocabulary. Yeah, so that was another really, obviously a plus. And we do see speech therapy, and I think soon we're going to be seeing cleft speech as well. At the moment, speaking of speech, through the speech pathology, we are doing a Canon group program, which it's originally in Canada. They usually go for 13 weeks, but we go for 6 weeks, and it's been here for like 10 years, I think. And it's not about where your child is developmentally, it's about where they are in the communication category. So there's like 4 categories, and then in that category there's like interpretation and expression. So how much can your child interpret versus express in each category? And I found, all of us have found that are in the group, a lot of our kids have a good mix. It's really, really interesting, and it's a great group. So if your child is at PCH, Perth Children's Hospital, and you are under the speech team, please ask about the Canon group. It's a really, really great, really welcoming and warming a group to be in. So I think I've covered mostly everything for this video. If you have any other questions, please leave them down below, and if you relate, also please leave that down below. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.